being the only woman, sometimes, there's more scrutiny in your work. They doubt you. You have to prove yourself more, I think, than if you were a man.
And now she's created a platform with DIY Girls, do-it-yourself girls, whose mission is to increase girls' interest and success in technical careers. Even the city of LA is encouraging more women to apply in the field of technology.
We know that we can't guarantee the outcomes, but we can sure work hard towards them. And if we do our work hard enough, we can be pretty much rest assured that eventually the outcomes will follow. With the resources and support in place, pursuing a career in the field of technology is an opportunity that could be as easy as a push of a button. I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
Women's Equality Day at the mayor's home celebrated women from all different city departments. While LAPD officers in parts of downtown and the San Fernando Valley will soon be equipped with new on-body cameras to help in their investigations. As Gil Reyes reports, the public will also have virtually no access to the footage.
You may notice more officers wearing them. Hundreds of on-body cameras will be given to officers in Mission, Newton, and Central divisions in the coming weeks, a way to improve police transparency. But the public has its doubts.
If these videos will not be shown to the public, how do we know what really happened, who did what?
At a recent police commission meeting, speakers and Commissioner Robert Saltzman raised concerns over video access. The rules are body cam footage generally won't be released to the public. Also, officers can review footage of police shootings and other use of force incidents before they file their reports. Critics say this might give cops a chance to alter their stories and justify use of force based on what's captured.
For me, that undermines the significant effort going on here, which is to increase transparency and increase trust.
Over the next 6 months, the LAPD will be reviewing the use and deployment of its on-body cameras, recommending minor tweaks here and there when warranted, after speaking with officers and the public. One thing that won't be changing, however, is the practice of allowing officers to look at the footage before filing their reports. That practice will remain unless the police commission changes the rules. Police also won't be sharing footage with the public unless the chief of police gives the okay.
That's just not a video. It could be an interview of you as the victim of a crime or somebody who witnessed what happened. We don't disclose that for a number of reasons, including protecting your privacy.
And the possibility of jeopardizing investigations. 860 on-body cameras will be handed out to officers by October. In downtown LA, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Earlier this year, the City Council approved a budget that sets aside half the funding needed to capture 7,000 more cameras. Well, it's a program that gives the most at-risk inner-city kids a chance to dream big and go to college. The I Have a Dream Foundation is now making dreams happen at an elementary school in Boyle Heights. Anna Marcos has more.
We are the dreamers, the mighty, mighty dreamers, the mighty, mighty dreamers.
The future just got brighter for 65 third graders at the Boyle Heights Sunrise Elementary School. The I Have a Dream Foundation has adopted them, and for the next 10 years, it will mentor them and give them the academic help they need to succeed.
I think they're going to help us with our math, reading, and writing.
What do you need help with exactly?
Math.
You have trouble adding or subtracting?
I have trouble doing multiplication. I don't have that much trouble.
Are you a straight A student?
Yes.
So you don't need help?
No.
This becomes the 19th class adopted by the foundation, which picks schools in places like Watts, Inglewood, and Boyle Heights, places where the kids often don't have the same opportunities as others.
We don't cherry pick the students at all, so we take every single one of them. We have 7 special needs children in this class. One of them is even nonverbal, but we don't leave anybody out.
The kids get help graduating high school in a city where less than half of inner-city kids ever graduate. They also get help getting into college with an $8,000 scholarship.
And that's what we want to see at our schools, the whole community coming together in support of our children who deserve the very best.
Education is so important to increase your opportunities and the possibilities for your future.
These kids are dreaming big already.
Tell me what you want to do in college. What do you want to study?
I want to study how to be an FBI agent.
The total cost of making sure these students succeed, about $25,000 per student over the next 10 years. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The I Have a Dream program is funded by private donors and foundation grants. While city leaders go for Olympic gold, a reward is being offered in the shooting death of a man in South LA, and some orangutans at the LA Zoo are flying high. All these stories in City Beat. A $50,000 reward is being offered for information in the shooting death of 21-year-old Almicar Ponce, who was killed in June while standing with a friend on the sidewalk in South LA. The gunshots came from two cars heading northbound on Wall Street from 43rd Street. Ponce's sister said he was kind and generous.
He was always very caring and looking out for others, and not only for us as a family, but as a community. Everybody in their neighborhood knew him.
We know the family needs closure, the community needs closure, and we ask for your help in providing information that will lead to the resolution of this case.
Anyone with information is urged to call the Newton Division at 323-846-6556. Well, it's been more than 3 decades since athletes from around the world descended upon the LA Coliseum during the 1984 Olympic Games. And now, city council members voted unanimously to put LA on the global stage again by moving forward with a bid to host the 2024 Olympic Games. Council members agreed to back the bid after city attorneys assured them the city will not be making any immediate financial commitments. Following the vote, the U.S. Olympic Committee selected Los Angeles as the nation's candidate to bid for the 2024 Summer Games. The USOC Board of Directors joined Council President Herb Wetson and LA Mayor Eric Garcetti in Santa Monica to make it official.
Los Angeles is Olympics ready. The Olympics is in our DNA. Olympics love LA, and LA loves the Olympics. We hope to return those games back home.
The Los Angeles Zoo has debuted a newly renovated Red Ape Rainforest, the first major improvements to be made since the exhibit opened in July of 2000. The goal of the 8-month project was to take the 6 orangutans, who called a habitat home, off the ground and give them more climbing options. The makeover included a thicker, stronger stainless steel woven mesh, several 2- and 3-tiered wooden climbing structures, 10 bridges on land and suspended in the air, 2 swings used for foraging and play, and several hammocks. Well, it's back to school, and that means back to basics when it comes to pedestrian and cycling safety around campus. Gil Reyes reports from South LA.
Students from South LA's 99th Street School receive advice that could save their lives during the morning walk to campus. The first tip is to always stop, look, and listen before crossing the street.
Slowing down and not being in a rush. Because when we're late or we're in a rush or we're trying to make it to class on time, we're often running and we forget that there's other folks on the road.
Lessons to start the school year right from the nonprofit group Safe Moves. They've teamed with the LAPD Southeast Division and LA School Police for a morning of safety reminders. Tips like using crosswalks when crossing the street and wearing bicycle helmets always when cycling. These life-saving tips also apply to the children's parents, who, by a show of hands, are far too often texting and driving while children are in the car. Many of these students admit seeing their parents texting and driving during the commute to school. Not only is safety compromised, but drivers could be fined $160 for the first offense, $280 or more for subsequent violations. Children are also reminded that accidents can happen while texting and walking.
If you go to any middle school or even an elementary school, you'll see kids with cell phones walking mindlessly across the street, walking on the sidewalk with their cell phones. Their heads are down. So we're teaching kids the phone goes in the backpack and the head stays up.
Giving kids a leg up on safety. In South LA, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Police are also urging students to walk and bike in groups. Well, Southern California has made it on the map for having the second worst streets in the country. And cities like LA are helping to pick up the slack. Mayor Eric Garcetti has helped outline a new plan called Fix Our Roads to help fill those pesky potholes. Anna Marcos has the story.
We've all felt them, driven through them, complained about them. The pothole problem makes one big dent in California's streets and its economy. Now city leaders have teamed up with county and state leaders to clean up California's streets and highways with a Fix Our Roads campaign.
We need $78 billion of repairs for our roads. And if we don't get ahead of this game, we're going to fall behind.
The city of L.A. paved 2,400 miles of roads last year, enough to build one long road from here to Washington, D.C. But it's still not enough because our roads, like those throughout the state, are decades behind when it comes to improvements.
Both the Port of Long Beach and the ports of Los Angeles move 40% of America's cargo up across the state. Our roads leading in and out of our ports, our bridges, the infrastructure need support, and they need investment to continue moving America's cargo.
State and local leaders are putting together a package to provide long-term, consistent funding for fixing our roads, including investing a part of the gas tax for transportation projects.
California cannot have a strong middle class or a thriving economy if our roads are congested and people and goods aren't moving efficiently.
Every year we delay in improving our road infrastructure, the price tag goes up.
On the home front, Councilmember Joe Buscaino introduced a motion to require private parking garages to accept credit cards so the city can rely on a paper trail to claim its 10% cut. The city will also improve its formula for charging companies that rip up the street, such as cable and telephone operators. All told, that's millions more that could go into providing a smoother ride for all of us. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
Studies show Angelino drivers spend more than $1,000 a year in added car maintenance costs due to potholes and bad roads. While MacArthur Park Lake becomes home to an exhibition of floating artwork, Rasha Goel has more on the creative spheres that are bringing color to the park.
It's not every day we see the mayor of Los Angeles kayaking at MacArthur Park Lake, but how could you not with hand-painted floating inflatable spheres? It's all part of the Portrait of Hope's project featuring 3,000 spheres.
This is going to be the largest public art project in the United States and also the largest civic project in the United States.
The project is conceived by the nonprofit organization Portraits of Hope. Each orb is 4 to 6 feet in diameter and covered in bright floral and fish patterns.
And altogether, we've had almost 10,000 people throughout Los Angeles work on this project. Now, many of them are school kids who, before they even had a chance to put a paintbrush on these spheres, had to go through a course in public policy.
9-year-old Okalani Santiago helped paint one of the spheres, but today was even more special for her.
I think it was kind of cool because I never met the mayor before and I got to do it with the mayor.
The spheres will be in water for a month and then will be donated to social services institutions across the country.
Creativity isn't just something that we apply to solve problems. Creativity is about inspiring our souls. It's about igniting our community. It's about reinvigorating our entire city.
And this is one creative project that will keep the ball rolling. I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
Officials hope this will be a stepping stone in revitalizing what's been considered an iconic and historic park in Los Angeles. Well, following the announcement that LA is in the running to host the 2024 Olympic Games, Angelinos were quick to post their excitement on social media. That's the focus of This Week in Tweets. The LA Mayor's office tweeted a pic of the LA Coliseum all lit up, posting, "The Olympic flame is burning bright in LA tonight." Alex Morgan posted, "Looking forward to bringing the Olympics back to my hometown, hashtag LA 2024. The LA Public Library favored a tweet from Mashable, which posted a pic of the mayor in a victory pose with council members Marquise Harris Dawson and Joe Buscaino. They tweeted, "LA is the U.S. candidate for the 2024 Olympics. The mayor is ecstatic." Jacob Soboroff tweeted a pic of a guy doing a flyby in a jetpack at the LA Coliseum. He wrote, "LA made a dude fly for 84 Olympics. Imagine the crazy-ish in 2024. So stoked we're official USA bid city." And that's a look at This Week in Tweets. Well, some folks got a chance recently to see the LA waterfront like they've never had before, as the Port of LA showcased all that it has to offer. There's nothing like taking a ride on the open sea and enjoying the sights of the LA waterfront, from sea lions taking a leisurely swim to catching a glimpse of Battleship Iowa.
Oh, I love it. You know, I went to the captain bed and I took a pictures and all these things. It's very exciting.
In an effort to connect folks with LA's waterfront, officials hosted the first ever Waves and Wheels event, offering free boat tours in celebration of World Trade Week, which promotes international commerce by educating folks on the major role the LA port plays in trade relations.
It's important that people are able to come down here and see what we do and how this affects international trade.
Riders also got to see various attractions from different perspectives, such as massive cargo containers, vessels, the Maritime Museum, and Ports of Call Village. A memorable experience for one visitor.
I miss the sea. I was an ex-sailor. A retired sailor.
Officials say the boat tours are just one of many events that help bridge the gap between the port and the public.
The port, this is a working, vibrant port, and it's important that we share that with the community.
A vibrant port that offers something for everyone, including these incredible views. And in addition to those stunning vistas, San Pedro also offers some delicious culinary delights. More than 20 of the area's finest restaurants recently headed outdoors to share their tasty dishes on the LA waterfront. As Gil Reyes reports, community is on the menu at the new Taste of San Pedro event.
Welcome along to the Taste of San Pedro. It's a fine day for it as well.
No tall tales from this tall pirate. It's a glorious afternoon with a lot on your plate to enjoy.
What's your favorite part of this event?
The food, the wine.
I think the music.
Oh, we saw Irish dancers. That was awesome.
We're at the Port of LA's new Taste of San Pedro event. Back after a 3-year absence. Smaller but more upscale, this tent-to-tent community food fest takes place at the Port's crafted marketplace.
We did it in more of a festival setting before, but this is an event designed to feature more really of food and beverage that we have to offer and talent rather than a carnival. A lot of people don't know about what San Pedro has to offer, so this is an opportunity for people to come out and experience our fabulous restaurants and our beverages.
You want one? More than 20 area restaurants represented. Jay Tranny's, which celebrates 90 years in the neighborhood, serves up Japanese hamachi tartar and chicken sausage. Owner and fourth-generation San Pedro resident Dustin Tranny is rediscovering his community by stepping outside the kitchen.
You have so many different restaurants, so many different people that I see come at the restaurant but don't really get the time to interact with them on a social level. So here it's just fun, relaxed. You got live music, great food, awesome people, and you couldn't beat the day. It's beautiful out.
See what else is cooking at the waterfront by visiting sanpedrochamber.com. In San Pedro, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Other favorite restaurants on the bill included The Whale and Ale, 22nd Street Landing, and San Pedro Brewing Company. While enjoying Italian opera under the night sky, getting inspired by modern architecture, and a race that'll get your heart pumping. All this in this week's Things to Do. On September 12th and 13th, Pacific Opera Project continues its successful run of presenting engaging productions in unique venues across Los Angeles with an outdoor production of Giuseppe Verdi's Falstaff. Enjoy table seating with food and wine, a top-notch cast and orchestra all under a starry sky as Pop presents this thoroughly good-natured masterpiece in a celebratory atmosphere, proving once again that opera is an art for the masses. The performance takes place at the Museum Plaza at Forest Lawn, Glendale, located at 1712 South Glendale Avenue in Glendale. For more, visit PacificOperaProject.com. Are you a fan of modern mid-century architecture? Well, here's your chance to spend Saturday, September 12th, touring some of the finest examples of modern design in Venice, Santa Monica, Hermosa Beach, and more. The LA Beach City's modern home tours are dedicated to finding the best modern residential architecture in the U.S. and beyond. Explore new products, architecture, and design, and examine the people, places, and things that define modern. With carefully selected architects, neighborhoods, and architecture, you'll not only learn about the cutting edge of home design, but you might even get an idea or two for your next home project. For more info and tickets, visit modernhometours.com. For some heart-pumping racing action, head out to the Red Bull Global Rallycross at the Port of LA on September 12th and 13th. Join other racing fans for all-day racing action, exhibitor booths, awesome giveaways, and more. Every ticket is a pit pass, so the entire family can visit the paddock to see the stars and cars of Red Bull Global Rallycross. Ken Block leads the championship, but anything could happen on this doubleheader weekend. The event takes place at Port of Los Angeles, berth 46. That's at 3011 Minor Street. Gates open at 10 a.m. For tickets, visit TIXR.com. And that's a look at some things to do. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. I'm Yana Kay, and from all of us here at LA This Week, thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Where is this guy? So thirsty.
I hear he travels from the north.
Look!
That one's really dry.
LA is in a drought, yet over half of our drinking water is being used for landscaping. But it doesn't have to be that way. Just 1 inch of rain can yield thousands of gallons of water for use in landscaping and saves drinking water for drinking. Rain barrels, cisterns, and curb cuts are just a few ways to save water and energy. For more, visit LADWP and the Bay Foundation online.
My mom kept telling my dad to clear the brush from around our house because it was a fire hazard and clearing it could save our house someday. My dad kept saying he would do it someday. Then someday came and it was too late. Don't wait until it's too late. Clear the brush now.
Hi, I'm Kevin from Chatsworth, offering you a taste of New Orleans since 1986. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel.
emergence, please call. I do want to thank Anyway, good morning. Good morning. I would like to welcome everybody to the Los Angeles City Council. Shh. Again, good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's council meeting. It is Friday, September 11th. Mr. Clerk, we do have a quorum. Could you call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bono, Buscaino, Cedillo, Engler, Fuentes, Harris, Dawson, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rue, Wesson, 10 members present, and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Koretz moves, Price seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Biden moves, Harris Dawson seconds. Next.
Mr. President, before running through today's agenda, there's been a request to continue item 1J to October 13.
Without objection, that'll be the order.
Very good, sir. Item 1 is an item noticed for public hearing. We do have cards, sir.
Let's hold that item. Continue. Mr. Fuentes.
My apologies. On items 1, may we continue 1N, O, and Q? N as in Nancy, O, and Q.
For how long?
2 weeks.
That's during recess, sir. The first day back would be October 6th.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, so anything left on that item we can vote on?
No, sir.
Okay, let's move on.
Items 2 through 4 are items for which public hearings have been held.
2 through 4, specials, members, any specials? Then let's prepare to vote on these items. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Let's move on.
Items 5 through 10 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, those items are now before this body.
Mr. President, we have cards on all items.
Okay, then we'll hold that. Those items, that brings us where?
Mr. President, that brings council back to presentations or items called special.
Okay, thank you. Members, in fact, Mr. Englander, if I could ask you to take the chair for a moment. Justin, where's the papers I had?
I got a mock letter for you to take a look at, too. All right, we've got a special Friday presentation that we all look forward to by Councilmember Wesson. Herb Wesson, the floor is yours.
Members, today is September 11th. I'm gonna do him in a little while. A day that we will all remember. A day where this country was blown apart and then brought back together the same day. It was the first time that I ever watched the television screen and I didn't see black Americans or white Americans or Latino Americans or Asian or Joe Italian Americans or Jewish Americans. It's the first time when I looked at those images from the city of New York that all I saw was Americans, where we came together to help our fellow man and woman. And I think we were given a glimmer, a snapshot into the future of really what this great country can be when we all work together for the common good. Quiet, please. Mr. President, I want quiet. 3,000 people. Shh. On September 11th, over 3,000 people lost their lives. I think you can wait 3 minutes before you have anything else to say. So if members of the in the council chambers would please show respect. There are two things that have occurred in my lifetime that I will never forget. The assassination of John F. Kennedy. I know exactly where I was and exactly what the time was. And 9/11. Each and every one of us has a story about where we were. I was frustrated, like many, and wanted to come up with something positive to show our patriotism and somehow raise some money to deal with improving law enforcement throughout the state of California. So I joined with then Republican leader Dave Cox, with the help of Senator Kevin Murray, who was with us yesterday. And we decided we were going to do something. We didn't know what it was, but we knew we wanted to do something. Every time you walked outside, you saw flags in cars, flags on lawns. Everybody wanted to really be a patriot. I got a phone call from a woman named Brenda Lamont, who was a staff member for former Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. And she said, why don't you devise or come up with a memorial license plate where a percentage of that money would be earmarked for scholarships for the relatives of those that died, and a percentage of that money would be used to help law enforcement with things like explosive sniffing dogs or whatever. So we joined together, and what I didn't expect was that California was going to embrace this. What we did, we had a contest for high schools throughout the state on what should this license plate look like. Over 400 high school kids entered the contest. We even were on television, Mr. Bonin, during the lottery selling license plates, and that's during the lottery programs where we showed the 11 finalists, and then finally we broke it down to 2, and we couldn't decide which one was the best. So what we did, the design you see up there, that was done by a young man who lived in La Mirada. Where you see "We will never forget," that was a slogan on the second place selection. So we took his slogan and put it on the license plates from the young man from La Mirada, and that became the memorial license plate. And so today, basically, we're saying that we will never forget. During this program, when we worked with billboard companies. We had billboards from San Francisco to San Diego that said, "Be a patriot, buy one of these license plates." I remember Alan Bevan. He was a renowned architect, I believe, world renowned. He was lost, I think, on Flight 83. His wife, Kim, and their daughter joined this cause and did press conferences throughout the northern part of California urging people to buy this license plate. Flight 77, there was a guy named Charles Burlingame. He was the captain of that flight. His friends called him Chick. His birthday was September 12th. He was a California boy from the Orange County. His passion was baseball. He was going to celebrate his 52nd birthday with his family at an Angels game. That never came to pass. But his brother Brad joined us and did public service announcements, traveled throughout the state, and this license plate, now I want you to look at it. So every time you're driving down the street and you see this, you know that this was created by the California State Assembly. This was our permanent memorial to those who lost their lives. So when you see it, think about, I know a lot of people see it now, they don't really know what it means, but this license plate is a tribute to those that lost their lives. Today, members, we have a 40-foot by 60-foot flag that, as I speak, is hanging on First Street, City Hall. So everybody that walks by, everybody that looks at this great building will see this symbol of the greatness of this country. The mayor has lowered the flags. Tonight at LAX, the pylons will be red, white, and blue. So in Los Angeles, we will never forget. And today, we will honor those that lost their lives, people that went to work believing they were going to come home, knowing that there was going to be plans for them later that week or the weekend. Those plans never came to pass. So, Mr. President, what I would like to do, with your permission, is I'd like to go around the horseshoe, and maybe we get a brief comment from every member. Where were you? What were your thoughts? I know the one thing that really, I still think about that today, is the first time I walked outside and I looked in the sky and I didn't see anything. I don't even think I saw birds. It was the first time in my life that our sky was silent. So that I think about all of the time. But I'd like to, if it's okay,
I think it would be absolutely
ask Mr. Fuentes, who played a very critical role during that period at City Hall. So if you would please share.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for asking us to honor those who passed. And when it's appropriate, Mr. President, I think it'd be very good for all of us, including those in the audience, to share a moment in silence so that we can all reflect on where it was that we were. But to be very, very brief, you know, that morning I was working for Mayor Hahn at the time. I was a deputy mayor for the city of Los Angeles, and I coincidentally was going to be meeting my good friend, then Council President Alex Padilla, for an early morning workout when we realized that with Mayor Hahn's absence in Washington, D.C., lobbying for the city of Los Angeles, that we now had an acting mayor in Mr. Padilla. And so I realized that at that point that I was now staffed to him again and needed to move very quickly to make sure that we got him to City Hall, because at the time we did not know where we were in terms of our airport, its security, the flights, everything that was moving in and out of Los Angeles overhead. And so the city staff, LA Fire and Police obviously did a remarkable job in setting up the command station, well, not command station, the Emergency Operations Bureau under City Hall East in the bunker there. And I remember vividly getting all of our resources together, making sure that Acting Mayor Padilla had everything that he needed, including all of the briefings. But I think the thing that struck me the most, obviously, in terms of sort of the fallout after, is how the city of Los Angeles would never be the way it was before, and how it was that we would all have to live differently and behave differently. But just to summarize and conclude here, I think I was struck the most by the images for the weeks and months after the event, where all you saw was neighbor and resident talking with one another, celebrating their love for this country by demonstrating their patriotism with flags. And it was a moment that none of us will ever forget. So thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Wesson.
Thank you. At that time, Mr. President, I was, at the time I did the license plate, it was the first thing that I did, knowing that I was going to be the next Speaker of the California State Assembly. And at that time, I was joined by a couple of folk, and I'd like to ask Mr. Koretz, who was serving with me at the time, if you have a recollection.
Thank you, Mr. President and former Speaker. I just remember being woken up by a phone call. I'm trying to remember when, maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. Turn on the television. And I did, and saw the first plane heading into the tower, and I was just in shock, as we all were, and just stayed transfixed watching the television as everything unfolded. And the call to me, I think, was from my wife. I was so dazed by what happened, I don't really remember who called, but the thought was, don't go into the Capitol, because we don't know whether this is the one incident or whether there are 100 planned all over the country. And so I didn't. I just stayed transfixed and watched for a few hours and couldn't believe what I saw. A couple things that I remember. One, of course, is my friend Brad Burlingame was very involved in the city of West Hollywood, and ran the marketing corporation, which then became the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So we were all shocked and saddened by what happened to his brother, and have participated in some things over the years. What stood out for me the most is I have relatives in New York, and just the randomness of life. My mother-in-law's best friend's son had a law firm. They were all moving in that morning into the building. And as it turned out, they had an incompetent set of electricians, and they were cursing them up and down and wildly angry that they delayed the entire law firm moving in by a day because of their incompetence.
Wow.
So because of that, they delayed one day, and her friend's son and their entire law firm was spared. Just the randomness of life, and just a reminder to live every day, and you never know what happens one way or another. But he's still around today and successful and happy, and we're all happy, but could have just as easily been something else.
I didn't know you knew Brad. He did a fitting tribute to his brother. Mr. Cedillo, I don't know if you were up there at the time or here. I know your wife was ill.
Yeah, as you know, I was woken up a little later. I was asleep, and I didn't have a television in the Capitol. I did that purposely so I could read more and be better prepared. And so I was asleep and took our world's changed. We were getting those little pages, right?
Yeah.
Right? We didn't have the smartphones that we have, and so I think it was Sarah Reyes, Martha Scutia were texting me crazy, and get up and watch this on television. I didn't have a television, so I didn't know what to do. It was, there was first early morning chaos, very chaotic, trying to figure out where to put the legislature. We didn't know if we were going to be the next targets. And so we went off campus We try to gather ourselves. You got us in, the information we needed. And you're right, my wife was ill. There was, she was in the hospital. And so I had to figure out
how to get
her back. Right? I mean, these are the first things you figure out. So I wanted to come home to LA, but there's no airplanes. And so all of a sudden you're in Sacramento trying to get back to Los Angeles. There's no airplanes. So I drove across the state. Don Parada was kind enough to loan me his vehicle. And I drove across the state. Got to see my wife. It was great. Surprise her, bring some comfort to her. But I also remember there was a couple of things that come to mind. There is this great sense that the country came together. People rallied, and in many instances, particularly the first responders, I think in many instances weren't prepared for what they rallied for. And I think of Robert Pacheco, our colleague. His son was a firefighter, and people rallied, and he left LA and went to New York. But he came back a really changed man. And I remember how proud his father was when he left. And we talked about that. But how troubled his father was after his son came back, because his son never seemed to recover from what he saw and what he had to engage and what he dealt with when he got there. And that was, there were a lot of losses after 9/11. Our worlds have changed. Security is preeminent, and we had a discussion about this the other day about how important security is, because we have to think about it like the rest of the world does. Now we're subject to terrorist attacks, and so we have to think about it. And I remember for us, I spent 15 years being at an airport no less than 2 times a week. And so we had to begin to think of how we would change our lives with respect to security. And that was a loss of our liberty and freedom in many respects that the whole nation has felt. Ironically, on 9/11, I had a meeting scheduled. Our office was scheduled to meet with Ann Richardson, Dan Savage, and others to meet on our driver's license bill. And we were going to meet on that bill so we could lay out the infrastructure throughout the state and begin to talk about the rollout of that bill. After 9/11, there were discussions about some of these terrorists had driver's licenses, and that was all that was needed. Whether they got them legally, whether they were here legally, nothing mattered. The only thing that mattered to those on the right, and that discussion remains today, of trying to scapegoat people, that that discussion around the driver's license could not go forward from that point on. And it took us another 10 years before we were able to be successful. That was another loss of 9/11. Ironically, it was an incredible speech by Tony Blair, the Prime Minister from Britain, that I thought was probably one of the most compelling statements of the day. And that the thing for all of us to do is, if we're against terrorism, is to work for peace. And that to put all our resources and energies to work for peace and for justice. And there's no greater defense against that type of terrorism than to commit our lives to peace and justice. Thank you.
Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for leading us in this discussion at Memorial this morning. On the morning of September 11th, very early, I think before 6 o'clock, I got a call, and I had caller ID so I could see that it was Karen Bass, who was my boss at Community Coalition at the time. And I'm like, oh my goodness, why is she calling me this early? Like, what is so important? And so I pick up the phone, and she says, are you guys back? And I'm like, what do you mean? And she goes, have you guys made it back? And I said, yeah, we're back at home. It worked out that particular year of 2001, my wife and I celebrated our wedding anniversary in New York City. And so when I turned on the TV and saw the buildings coming down, and I woke my wife up, we sat stunned, silent for probably 30 minutes, because we'd been on top of the building on Sunday. looking around and marveling in the greatness of the United States and New York City and so on and so forth. And so we both felt our own fragility and vulnerability in that moment as we watched the buildings come down. And I remember getting to the office and beginning to meet, and for a few short days, it seems like in retrospect, everybody was American. For the first and probably only time in my life, everybody was American. There were no hyphenates, there were no Southern and Northern, there was no black and white. Everybody was American, and that unity was, frankly, one of the most beautiful displays of civic unity that I've seen in this country. And you can see now what the price of not having that unity is for the country. And so every time I think about 9/11, I think about, even when you feel like you're your strongest and you're standing on the biggest, baddest building that humankind has created, you still have vulnerabilities. And the way that we protect each other from vulnerabilities, the reason we create cities and countries and counties and communities, is to protect each other and help us each join in the process of guarding against our own vulnerabilities. And so that's what 9/11 means to me. Every single year is, again, fighting to forge the kind of unity that I know we're all capable of.
So I was not in office back in, I can't believe it's been 14 years. So that was back in 2001. But I had just gotten engaged. And I'll be celebrating my 13-year wedding anniversary later this month. But I can remember being woken up. A very good friend of mine called me and said, did you see what just happened? And I remember flipping on the television, but I thought it was an accident. It didn't click until hours later that it was declared that it was a terrorist act. But I don't ever remember any time in my lifetime ever feeling a sense of uncertainty. And being so excited I just hadn't gotten engaged, whether I was even going to see my wedding day the following year. I got married in September of the following year. But I don't ever remember feeling a sense of uncertainty in terms of what this country was going to do in this situation. And you know, I'm glad Mr. Harris Dawson talked about feeling American. I think it's one of those. It was that very day that I felt in Pacoima a sense that we were all Americans. But you know what I also remember? Not only feeling American, but I also remember everyone being kind to each other. And I think if we take anything away from this very important day, is the fact that we can be here one day and be gone the next. But it's that sense of being kind to one another. I don't ever remember a sense of being so proud to be an American as September 11th, but I also remember how kind and understanding we were to one another in this country, how tolerant we were of one another in this country. And if anything, if history teaches anything to us, it's to try to take that lesson from that awful day in this country, is to remember what it felt to be an American, and to remember to be kind to each other, because we just never know.
That was very moving, Ms. Martinez. With the permission of the President, Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing us to reflect on this important day. I was driving into work. I was working for then Chief Parks' community relations section, and heard on KNX, then 980 dial, of the reports that were coming in from back east. And first thought that I had was our first responders, and put in a prayer for them to keep them safe. Coming into the office here at Parker Center, I turned on the TV to monitor the developments. And I vividly remember, as citizens were fleeing the scene, you had first responders, police officers, firefighters rushing into the towers to save as many lives possible. Of course, the city at the time, that same day, was under a citywide tactical alert, the direction for the boots on the ground, the officers, to monitor all the critical sites in the city of Los Angeles. In the days and weeks followed, representing the chief's office, we put our heads together and try to find any way we can to remember those first responders who died in the line of duty, especially the Widows and Orphan Fund for the NYPD and Port Authority. We raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, myself and along with other colleagues of mine, especially John Long, who is now a bomb detection canine officer. We were blessed with the opportunity to represent the department and head back east to New York, New Jersey, to present the check to the Widow and Orphan Fund for NYPD and the Port Authority. And then we were offered to attend a few of the funerals of some of the officers who died in line of duty. I'll never forget that experience. Never forget the wives and the children crying and seeing their loved one being buried. It's our duty, colleagues, to reflect today of our first responders and bless them and keep them in your prayers. I thought many times that could have been us here in the city of Los Angeles as officers and firefighters responding to a major incident, a major terrorist attack that could have impacted our city. This morning, my daughter's school, it was Red, White, and Blue Day. And my daughter today proudly took off our flag, our American flag that hangs in our next to our garage, and paraded the American flag into school. And it was a proud moment. It's important for us to reflect today, but also share with our boys and girls, or the youth, that remember those who died on this day, and never forget our first responders who rushed to the scene and tried to save as many lives as possible. Thank you for allowing us to reflect on this important day, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. I'm really moved and appreciate the remembrances that we're sharing individually and collectively. I won't forget that day. I gotten up early with my wife. She wanted to come downtown and get a special outfit for the Latin Grammys that were that evening at the Forum. I was serving on the city council at that time, Inglewood City Council. And, you know, we heard something on the radio and we thought it was, you know, just a bad accident. It didn't really understand and appreciate the gravity. As I said, we were focused on, I was focused on helping her. She was focused on getting this outfit. And so as we started walking down the street, again, you see clumps of people sort of hovering and talking. And one by one, shops started closing. It started closing. And other shops, people were huddled in front of the TVs, just watching, just transfixed as to what was going on, and sort of buzzing, you know, speculation. But it was a time when, as several have said, everyone just came together. Everyone felt we are one community. You know, we are Americans. We have to protect each other. And although this incident occurred thousands of miles away, because of television, telephone, communications, I think we felt connected. We felt right there. And so as I was watching the news this morning, several of the news channels were doing their broadcasts of that day, of that morning. And it just really brought home again how challenging the time was then and how it has changed us today. I mean, the metal detections and all the security checks that are in place now that we almost take for granted were really new and signs of a different time. And so we just all have so much to be grateful for, and I think it's an opportunity for us to reflect, you know, not just on the past, but on the present and on the future, and hope that we never have to suffer through that kind of trauma, that national trauma again. And so again, I just appreciate the remembrances and being able to share that with my colleagues and the community today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. President, for doing this today. It hadn't even occurred to me today was the anniversary. And I appreciate the opportunity to reflect. I was up very early that day. A good friend of mine was having outpatient surgery, and I was driving him from Venice to, I guess it was Culver City, for the surgery. And we had the radio on in the car on the way in, and we heard the first report of the plane crashing into the first tower, and thought this was a horrible accident. And while he was under, I went back home, listened to the radio on the way home, heard about the second tower, the towers began to fall down. And I remember going to pick him up a few hours later, and as he woke up, trying to explain to him that he was waking up in an entirely different world than the one he had fallen asleep in. I remember, there were so many vivid images from that day. I remember very specifically, though, Tom Brokaw on NBC in the middle of his reporting declaring that we're at war. And that was a time when sort of anchors on national television had that sort of weight and that authority, and it sort of gave a real strong signal that things had changed dramatically in this country. And I remember feeling all the positive things that everybody talked about, the unity, but I also remembered a real sense of foreboding and fear and loss of what could happen in this country as a result of these attacks. I remember thinking, what are we going to willingly and eagerly give up that will give the people who did this attack a victory? Which of our freedoms are we going to throw away? What are we going to sacrifice in terms of privacy? And I think we've sacrificed a whole hell of a lot in our rush to defend ourselves from people who didn't want us to have freedom. I think we've actually given them a victory over the years. I remember being really afraid because I had some neighbors, and I overheard them talking about how the problem was Muslims. And I remember being really afraid of what was going to happen once the euphoria, or not the euphoria, once that feeling of unity ended, and what ugliness was going to happen in this country, and how racism and bigotry would again rear its head. And I remember a few days later going to a Days of Dialogue that was organized by Mark Ridley Thomas. It was at a mosque in South LA, and the room was packed with people trying to find some understanding and trying to find some peace. And I remember someone in my little group talking about how to them the word Islam sounded like peace to them, and how quickly things changed after that. I also remember finding some heroes in the days afterwards. I remember the stories of Flight 93 and the folks who reportedly tried to seize that plane and caused it to crash in a field in Pennsylvania instead of perhaps into the Capitol or the White House. And I remember feeling particularly proud hearing about Mark Bingham, who was a young gay man who was on that flight, an athlete, who was one of the four who reportedly stormed the cockpit. But the figure I remember most is he was a chaplain for the New York Fire Department who died that day. His name was Michael Judge. He was a Franciscan priest, and he died as a result of being near the towers helping out the firefighters that day. And there's this iconic photo of the firefighters that he served with so closely for so many years, carrying him out in a blanket. And it's very iconic and looks very much like one of the photos of a Christ being removed from the cross in the shroud. And it was just a telling photo. And I remember researching who Michael Judge was, and they've written a few books about him. And he was not only a dedicated chaplain for the fire department there, who spent hours in burn units and with family members, but before that he had also done a really intense ministry for AIDS victims in New York, back at a time when people didn't want to be in the same room with people with AIDS. And he did an incredible outreach ministry for the homeless in New York City. And I just remember being struck by the story of this incredible man and this incredible loss, and the thought of how many incredible men and how many incredible women and how many incredible heroes we lost that day. Thank you for this reminder today.
Mr. Rue.
Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing us to share. You know, that day, it was a very surreal experience for me. Like Councilmember Harris Dawson, I, too, about the year before, was in New York. Lived in Manhattan for about 5 months as a United Nations graduate intern, and made lots of friends from throughout the world. And actually, the Twin Towers, I believe there was a restaurant up on the top floor, and you probably went there as well, council member, called Windows of the World. And me and my fellow interns from the United Nations frequently went there for dinner, for drinks. It was a place of gathering for a lot of people from all around the world. So that morning, not just that morning, but the entire rest of the day, I was basically fielding calls from all my fellow UN interns from all around the world, calling, asking what's going on, asking if I was okay, even though I was thousands of miles away. And I remember there was a sense of anxiety and unknown because no one knew what was happening. And basically I spent the entire day telling my friends I'm okay, fielding calls from relatives from around the world saying, you know, it's fine, it's great, I'm doing fine. And a day like today, it helps me remember that this tragic event for our nation, unfortunately, you know, tragedies are still happening today throughout the world, throughout our nation, and in our city. Some random, some planned. And while 14 years ago, I felt helpless and scared, now 14 years later as a council member, now I feel that it's my job, that it's our job to do everything that we can to prevent, to protect the citizens of Los Angeles and our nation. So I'm happy to be here.
Mr. President, maybe you could wrap this up, and then as Mr. Fuentes suggested, we'll have a moment of silence.
First and foremost, I want to thank you, Mr. President, for, as we do see those license plates often on the highways and quickly forget what they resemble. When I got dressed this morning, I proudly put on my lapel pin to remember 9/11. And thinking back, and I thought about it as I was getting dressed this morning, I woke up in the morning, as I'm an early riser, and I was already up and already had the news on. My oldest daughter started getting her ready for kindergarten. She had just started kindergarten. She's now in college. It's been a lifetime. My youngest was 2 years old. At 2 and 5, they don't remember that day, but we often talk about it and remind them. The words that you all shared were words that we often use every day, but they've changed dramatically when you talk about this tragic day. The words and the descriptions that you all shared were words such as sadness, unknowing, shock, disbelief, frantic, fear, loss, trauma, sacrifice, afraid, unknowing, anxiety, tragedy, helpless. These are the ones that you just shared. These words were words I think everybody used that day. The words we used soon after: patriotism, kind, tolerant, connected, peace, understanding, heroes, and remembrance have a totally and completely different meaning today than they did then. As we think about, it's not just that day that forever changed the world as we know it. It's also a day to remember the lives and the families that were left behind that suffer and continue to suffer for their losses each and every day. It's the husbands, the wives, the aunts, the uncles, the children's, the nephews, the friends, the grandmothers, the grandfathers, the heroes, the first responders, those that went to work that never made it home. And the ones that are home to this day, thinking about their loved ones, we remember that and them in our hearts today, too. Mr. President, I thank you not only for your continued leadership, but taking this time on such an important day in our lives as leaders of one of the largest cities in the country, that we think about not only our responsibilities and our families and our losses, but our responsibility in protecting and serving not just the residents of Los Angeles, but all the visitors, each and everybody. The fact that you opened it up with, we didn't see color, race, religion, sexual orientation. We saw nothing that day but Americans and people united. We have to do that each and every day. And let us remember, but let's also remind us that we have to continue to do that every day. Thank you very much, Mr. President. God bless you. God bless the city, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could all rise. For a moment of silence. Thank you. And remember to be a patriot. Mr. President, if I know that Mr. Fuentes has to go to a very important service for a dear friend, if we could go to his presentation at this time, would be appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. I have the distinct honor of standing here with two very incredible, courageous Angelenos who are also members of the Los Angeles City family, the Department of Water and Power. On August 18th in Highland Park near York Boulevard in Council District 14, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power maintenance and construction crews were out doing some work. Raul Jaime and Jose Gonzalez were there performing that work, and they witnessed a man slumped over his steering wheel in a parked car. The two men immediately jumped into action, yelling and knocking on the window, trying to get the attention of the driver, but there was no response, and it was clear that he was not coherent, passed out. So the two obviously called 911, and with the operator's instructions and guidance, the men opened the driver's side door and had to eventually perform CPR. Shortly after that, the first responders were there, LAPD and the paramedics, and in the course of their actions, the man began to breathe again, who was unconscious and not breathing. And so we know that because of Raul and Jose's actions, heroic actions, that man is alive today. And I thought it would be fitting that if we ask them to be here today and to for us to bestow the honor of our thanks as not just DWP City of Los Angeles family, but as Angelenos and fellow people here, to be helping and going out of your way and noticing what it is that took place that day, and for saving this man's life. So with that, I'd like to ask Terry Jackson, who is the Transmission and Distribution District Supervisor to make a few remarks, and then we'll hear from Jaime and Jose. Terry?
Thank you. Yes, it's really prideful on my part to have two employees like this that heroically and selflessly stepped forward and performed without thinking about their own safety. They had stopped for a moment to get some refreshments, and they noticed that there was a problem, and without hesitation, they performed what was taught to them, and the result was that the individual lives this day. And it's good to note also that in situations like this, even with trained professionals such as the fire department, that only 10% of the victims that they respond to result in a life-saving effort after CPR. 8% of the people that are affected by, receive CPR actually make it. And so it was extremely fortunate that these two happened upon and had the skill set to do the job. And obviously it was very successful. Thank you.
So, colleagues, let's give these heroes a big round of applause.
Deserve that. They deserve that.
I'm going to invite Raul and Jose to say a few words.
Hi, good morning. I'm pretty much speechless. For me, it was just an act of good deed. No, nothing more, nothing less. And I appreciate the recognition. So, thank you.
I think you're a perfect example, you guys, of what we were talking about today. Just pitching in, helping. Anyway, my hat is off.
Good morning, Council. This was really Raul who recognized the man who was in need of help, and with Raul's persistence and saying I think he needs help, and we foresaw, and yeah, sure enough, if it wasn't more for Raul, persistence, and actions of that he needs help, he recognized it before I did. So I think more of the recognition is toward Raul and recognizing of a fellow citizen in need of help. So thank you, Council.
No, thank you, guys.
Very good, colleagues. So I'd like to present Raul and Jose these plaques, these tokens of our appreciation on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, a grateful City of Los Angeles, and the Department of Water and Power. Thank you so much for what you do for the city and for what you did for that man that day. Give him a big round of applause, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fuentes. Okay, and before I call Mr. Cedillo for our next presentation, I'd like to, since we do believe in saving lives, I'm asking anybody that can hear my voice or see this on television to save this young fella's life. Adopt this pet. He is a terrier mix. They call him what now? Timmy is his name. Of course, you can change it. Timmy is, get a little close up if you can. Timmy is 2 months old, will not grow much bigger than he is right now. And since I've spent time with him today, he is a loving companion animal. And I urge, if you're watching or if you're here in the chambers, take him home. We have a 100% adoption rate. We are in a stiff competition with the county. Please help us out. Give Timmy a home. Take him home today. Is he spayed and neutered? He's already ready to go. So if you we're going to have Arlene stay in the back, and I hope to announce that somebody has decided to take the young fella home. So again, you're not just adopting a companion animal, you are really saving a life. Mr. Cedillo, for a very very important presentation.
How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Please join us. So, Mr. President, I don't know that he needs an introduction, but Father Bacchus is well known in the city of Los Angeles and throughout the entire community. Born in 1958, married to Maria Bacchus. They have 4 children. He immigrated to the United States in 1962 and earned his theological degree with Archdiocesan, is that the way you say that? Program, priest with lay profession, supervised by the Holy Cross Seminary. He has an MA in philosophy from the University of New Mexico and a master's in theology from LMU. These are what his official information is. But he is, and I think it's important in this moment to talk about what a great leader he is in the city of bringing communities together. He's a visionary. He's a man who came with this idea about the Byzantine Latin Quarter, an area that first existed in his vision and in his mind over at Normandy and Pico. I remember when I met him, I thought, what is this guy talking about? This Byzantine Latino Quarter. I thought, okay, well, sure, why not? But then I met him, and we went for a walk. And he reminded me of Spencer Tracy in the movie Boys Town. And Spencer Tracy played this Father Flanagan. And this man here embodied...
I loved that, Gilbert. I loved
it was who he was. Yeah. And we walked down the street, and he showed me trash cans that were overfilled. He showed me new trash cans that they had gotten. I thought this was very interesting. And then we walked, and he took me to a burger stand, and we walked in there, and it was like a set of a old movie of the 30s or 40s. Everybody in there knew him, and he knew, the people flipping the burgers and the chicken.
Oh, yeah, red
The red chicken. And we walked up and down the street, and people knew him and, would wave to him and talk to him. And so we began our efforts to create and to acknowledge the Byzantine Latino Quarter. And it's evolved to more than that. It's gone from an idea and a vision to now a community. And we're here today to honor a man who has created a sense of community in a place where there wasn't, in a place where there were silos of people living together, but people were not woven together as a community, did not have the fabric that is essential and necessary. And so we're here to honor him. He's the dean of the St. Sophia Cathedral, one of the most opulent places of worship I've ever seen. And as I've traveled the world, one of the places I visit always are places of worship. And I've been throughout the world, some of the most famous, most opulent, and some of the most humblest. And St. Sophia is one of those ones where the grandeur of faith is embodied in both its building and in its congregation. And so we're here to acknowledge him for his 20 years of service as the Dean of the St. Sophia Cathedral and as the visionary of the Byzantine Latino Quarter.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And you will remember him from walking the halls of Sacramento.
Ah, yes. Thank you, my dear friend, Senator and Councilman Cedillo.
Well, let me just jump in. See, the city shares you, even though technically it's Gilbert and I, that because I have to echo everything that Mr. Cedillo said. I've known you for a very, very long time. I do remember your push about the area and bugging me, Mr. Cedillo, when it wasn't even in my district.
Yes.
Okay. But he's a man of all of the people. Definitely deserves this recognition and more. He also understands what my favorite Greek dish is, and there has been a commitment to get a little bowl of that.
Mr. President and esteemed council members, what the president is speaking about is that when he was in Sacramento, he was bitten by a little Greek bug, and he loves Greek bean soup, which we call fasulada. That'd be a good name for a dog, fasulada. So I pledge to you that we will bring you the best of that to your office one day. Thank you, first of all, Councilman Cedillo, because when he was in the Senate, he was really the primary mover to develop this business improvement district, and he has been a great friend, and I respect and care for him very much. Before I sit down, as I thank you all for this recognition, it isn't me. It is the work that all of us are doing together. Let me introduce our community president, Brent Noyes. Let me thank Alexandra Datic, who helped coordinate these things. Our Ladies Society Auxiliary Helping the Poor, called Philoptochos, is here. And our chief volunteer, Vicky Deriadis, is also here. Very quickly, today, the president said, we remember what happened 14 years ago, which unfortunately was a day of destruction. But you are here, and we are here because we are here to construct. We're here to construct. And so I'm here to remind you and us, and we're working in the neighborhood, and if you come to our area, and I hope that you visit the cathedral and our new 55,000 square foot building that we have for the community, across the street we have a saying that says, we are angels with one wing, we can only fly embracing one another. So in the city of angels, Los Angeles, the city of angels, indeed we are all angels with one wing, and in order to fly we have to embrace each other. And this is what we're here to do, to embrace you. I'm going to kiss him anyway. To embrace you and to ask you to continue to work with the community in development, to go above and beyond personal interests, come to the area, help us, and you are personally invited to our LA Greek Fest. And if the president shows up, we'll make sure we'll give you some fasulada. We'll make it just for you. So I hope you'll come this weekend. We'd love to introduce you. Or anytime you'd like to visit the area, let us show you some of the things the people are doing. We're just doing it together. So thank you very much for being constructors and unifiers. And may you live long and prosper. And may you also be individuals with purpose. And you have that now.
Yeah, we thank you all. Give them a round of applause. Thank you for everything.
So one of the favorite parts for all of us of our job here is we get to present these really beautiful proclamations. And Father, on behalf of the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Come and we'll teach you how to Greek dance anytime this weekend.
I'll be there.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Let us continue. I do want to say that we still have our little mixed terrier, Timmy, is still available at this point, even though I think people are really trying to figure out who may adopt her. And I want to remind all of the people that are here today and the members, look outside, look at the phenomenal flag that's off first. Again, we thank the mayor for lowering the flags, and we want to again remind everyone that tonight at the airport the pylons will be red, white, and blue. And thank you, members, for remembering this very important day in the history of our nation. Okay, let us proceed. Okay, we're going to go to item number 5. And before we start, I want to make something crystal clear. I am warning you in advance to stay on the subject. You get 2 warnings. This is your first. Stay out, you get off the subject, you're going to leave. This is serious business, not a game. So you can say whatever you want to say as long as it's on the subject. Mr. Walsh, we'll start with you. John Walsh. Mr. Bonnet.
On Mr. Buscaino's behalf, I'd like to ask that item 1C be continued until October 6th.
Can we do that, or do we have to? Okay, then, without objection, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dams. See the new posting. This concerns this REAP, Rent Escrow Account Program. I've been a renter here since '76, and I found this program very, very handy, very good. Remember the rules here. If there's a violation in your home, as at 2834 West Leeward, the renter went to the landlord. The landlord didn't do anything, and then the city stepped in, and from then on, the landlord didn't get the rent. The city got the rent till everything was repaired.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let us open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
We're now moving on to item 6. Item 6, I have cards from Mr. Herman and Mr. Spindler. Item 6.
Go ahead.
Categorical exemption, communication from the city engineer, resolution to vacate, relative to vacating the alley southwestern of Bixel Street from 6th Street to approximately 420 feet southward thereof. Should we reaffirm the findings for this Bixel Street? Yes, we should. Why? Because Bixel Street has had many gang problems. Bixel Street is in CD1. I know as a pig, I go down there sometimes to find people I meet in Bixel Street, and it's gotten real dangerous lately. It's very hard for people to buy drugs there lately.
No, you're off the subject.
So reaffirm.
That's your second warning.
The findings, and this is not a good thing. Vote no. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Herman. Start his time.
I waive it.
Okay, let's vote on this. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That's approved. It moves us now to item 7, Mr. Walsh, followed by Mr. Spindler. Let's go, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. This is a negative declaration. What they're doing is city is taking over 21st Street between Grand Avenue and Olive Street. They're doing this, as they do quite often, at the behest of the developer. If it's owned by private interests, it will be eminent domain and then handed over to a private developer for practically nothing. The Community Redevelopment Agency used to do this, but now you have to do it. There's a vacation, substantial conformance with the general plan. What they're trying to do in this area, incidentally, is move downtown into the black area of the city. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Okay, let's vote on this. Let's. Oh no, Mr. Spindler, come forward.
Fucking negative fucking declaration, communication from the fucking city engineer, and fucking resolution to fucking vacate relative to fucking vacating 21st Street between fucking Grand Avenue and fucking Olive Street. Fucking recommendations for the fucking council. 1, fucking reaffirm the fucking findings. 2, reaffirm the fucking findings. 3, adopt the motherfucking resolution to vacate number 15-1401178 for the fucking vacation of 21st Street between fucking Grand Avenue and fucking Olive Street. Instruct the fucking city clerk to transmit this fucking thing following council adoption, resolution to vacate number 15-14001178 to the fucking land fucking development fucking group, to the Bureau of fucking Engineering for recordation of the said fucking resolution with the Los Angeles County fucking recorder. Fucking impact statement none, and I done here.
Thank you. In particular, thank you for showing us your limited vocabulary. Let us prepare to vote on this subject. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Mr. Clerk, it's my understanding there's been a request for item 1A that be continued for, was it 2 weeks? 30 days. So that would bring us where?
October 13th, sir.
Okay. All right. So now we're on item 9, and I have cards from Mr. Herman. In fact, no, from Mr. Previn. Mr. Previn and Mr. Walsh, Ms. Ramirez, Mr. Herman, and Mr. Spindler. So go right ahead. Your first one up.
Well, obviously I have a fucking reason to talk about this motion here brought up by Weezer relative to the installation of a street for fucking banners to promote and provide pedestrians what? The charter and walkability? How fucking long? Helping to beautify our community in Boyle Heights. How fucking long? But the point is, this motion by Weezer to beautify 3rd Street and fuck the rest of the city, identifying the commercial area boundaries, is fucking racial and discriminatory. Recommendations by this council to approve the existing banner design. Fuck the banner design. Fix our fucking streets. That's the problem here. No one ever deserves the right to trip and slip and fall in the city of Los Angeles. Big dog, cuz I'm talking about Weezer relative to the installation of these banners. Are they more important than protecting the public from harm and danger? How unconstitutional does that get?
Stay on the subject.
So I waive my 1 minute.
Okay, and now we know you went to the same school that Mr. Spindler went to. Mr. Previn?
Yes, it's Eric Previn from CD2. I went to a different school, and I do feel that we are overusing the F-bomb, gentleman in the back. It's not appropriate, and it just seems like it's just not landing. It's not funny. I don't know. What can I say? Everybody has a right to do whatever they want. I'm on number
Mr.
8.
Previn.
Yeah, I'm on number 8. No, it's okay. I'm on number 8.
No, we're on 9.
Are we on 9? What happened to 8,
yeah.
sir?
No, I have a card from you on 9, so let's do 9.
But what about 8?
No.
I'm not going to fight
Previn,
with you, sir. Not on a day of respect.
You're disrupting the meeting.
9.
Speak to 9.
I'm going to right now, sir, but I only want to spend 30 seconds.
No, speak to 9.
That's right. Okay, please, it's disorienting, sir. Okay, this is a motion not by Mr. Weezer alone. It's Mr. Koretz and Weezer, and I like this one. This is a positive day because this is about the street banners, and Mr. Koretz had the idea, and I think I support it, of let's just have it be about promoting walkability in our neighborhood. Let's not farm it out to some big interest or whatever. Although I did find the Armenian heritage ones very moving, with the faces of the survivors was deeply moving. But
Stay on the
this is a nice one because it's civic-minded, it's within reach of his community, and it just gets people into the business area. So Mazel Tov. It's a nice one. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh or Ms. Ramirez, I see you. Please go first.
Please don't be wasteful fools and spend money on banners to promote pedestrian character and walkability. Spend first money to fumigate, sanitize, and disinfect the streets. Then hire my beloved Gillespie Daredevil pilots extraordinaire to fly the banners and promote clean, sanitary.
Stay on the subject, please.
Staying on the subject, there's a flip side to that problem. The streets are filthy, Herb Wesson. If you walk those streets, which I do every day, they're filthy. They need to be cleaned.
Get back on item 9.
Again, number 9. Quit censoring and interrupting. We're saying before you have people walk these streets, have you heard that song, Walking in L.A.? Nobody walks in L.A. Walking in L.A.
Okay,
Again,
you're off the subject. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. This concerns street banners. Now, and somehow street banners promote walkability? That's what it says here. Pedestrian character? Look, if you walk in the city of Los Angeles, that means you're homeless or you don't have a car. And that's what promote. Somehow you're going to put a banner up there, and you need approval. And the West 3rd Street Business Association, a non-event street banner. What that means, it is not in any way telling us something's going to happen. It's just telling us how great this West 3rd Street Business Association is. Get rid of it.
Mr. Spindler, I do not have a card from you, Mr. Akala. Mr. Spindler, please come forward.
Relative to installing cocksucker street banners to promote cocksucker pedestrian character and cocksucker walkability, cocksucking helping to beautify cocksucker 3rd Street and identify the commercial cocksucker area boundaries. Recommendation for council action? Approve the street banner motherfucking program identifying the West 3rd Street Cocksucker Business Association as a City of Los Angeles non-event street fucking banner program in accordance with the Los Angeles Municipal Cocksucker Code Section 62.132. 2. Approve the existing cocksucker banner motherfucking design as motherfucking attached to the Cocksucker Council cocksucker file. Item number 9. You're a master. Heil Hitler. Heil Hitler.
Okay, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Let's now move on to item 8. Mr. Previn, item 8.
And
Mr. Clerk?
I'm sorry, sir. There is a substitute motion for item 8 that has been circulated and is now before council for consideration.
I want to call Mr. Previn. I want to call Mr. Herman. I want to call Ms. Ramirez, Mr. Spindler, and Mr. Akala. So just please come on up. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's Eric Previn. What is the substitute motion? Or is there a substantive component to the substitute motion? It is Eric Previn of CD2. Mr. City Clerk or somebody? Okay. Anyway, this is an
I'm
item
told
that
it's
has
not
to
a
do with
substantial
Mr.
change,
Ryu.
and it should be posted on the board.
Well, it's not on the board. But Ryu and Koretz, this is a nice one. Again, it's a feel-good day. This is funding. We're going to be paying back the Korean Community Youth Center. It's a nice group who did some work on some medians on Larchmont Boulevard. So thank you for that. Presumably, that work is done. It's $15,000, and I think it's very nice. It is, if I'm not mistaken, related to item 4, which is another very nice. This one is by Parks, who's doing business as O'Farrell. It was done in late June, just before the July 1 start of the new council, which is going to be making the corner of 24th and not Wilshire. I believe it's South Vermont. And they're going to name it the Korean Culture Center Inc. Square. Now, my proposal is drop Inc., INC, because I feel that we do name after groups city streets and corners and various things, and it's appropriate, but the incorporated part feels off. It feels like it's one extra word, and I would just propose in the spirit of compromise removing it from the name of this very nice square. So thank you.
Okay, who's next? I see Mr. Herman come forward. Item 8.
I would like to thank Mr. Ryu in his endeavorness to provide such youthful development in our community centers. Thank you, Mr. Ryu. Because of you, we've seen great change so far in City Hall. You're not the kiss ass pushing a button like some people here do. Incidentally, though, the medians I care less for. But Ryu, you are doing a hell of a great job. Keep it up.
Stay on the subject.
Don't be influenced by the $15,000 in Public Works Trust Fund number 834/50 revenue service. I think you should double that amount. Take a piece from each of these councils' padded wallets from their campaign donors and provide
on the
our
subject.
Korean youth better programs and services that you offer, Mr. Ryu. Again, vote for Ryu.
You're off the subject. Thank you, Mr. Herman. Next, you're disrupting the meeting. Next time, you'll be asked to leave. Ms. Ramirez?
Thank you. Having been to Korea in the Olympics, back in Korean Olympics, I have come to admire the Korean people. Again, I approve this motion, for we know that most Koreans, especially the young kids, are motivated to seek higher education. They have the Buddhahood inside, and they are gracious. They are well-mannered.
Stay on the subject.
And again, thank you. Stay on the subject here, prompter. Again, we definitely need a funding for Korean youth, because they need a space of their own where they can communicate and enjoy their culture, their environment, and all that they're...
Read the topic.
I did read the topic.
No, you're not on the subject, Ms. Ramirez.
Topic. So again, thank you for the censorship. Continuous interruptions in the censorship.
Okay, thank you. You are off the topic. Mr. Ocala, please come forward. I believe that's your second warning as well. There will not be a third. Mr. Ocala.
I believe that Koreans are better than Mexicans.
I think you should stay on the subject.
With a center for the Korean youth, where they can eat a lot of kimchi and do a lot of exercise.
That's not on the agenda.
It is. Look, right here, motion, Mr. Ryu and Koretz, relative to the funding for the Korean Youth Community Center. What do you do there? You eat kimchi.
Stay on the subject.
Perform. I don't think they'll be sell. I don't. Well, 1 minute only. I only wish to speak 1 minute. Hold my other minute, because I want to talk about Mexican food in my...
Thank you. You're off the subject, so go ahead. Mr. Spindler, I have you, and I think that's the last card.
Right. Normally, I support motion rule. Correct. Rather to fund and Korean community so center for work or rather perform. Maintain median Larchmont Boulevard. Recommendation. Call council action. Allocate $15,000 in public work cost fund 83450 revenue source 574202 to Korea.
You know what? You need to speak more clearly. We can't understand a word you're saying.
work already performed in maintaining the median on Larchmont Boulevard. Authorize the Board of Public Works upper accountant to make any payment to Korean Youth Community Center in the amount above.
Mr. City Attorney, no one can understand what he's saying.
Yes. Viva Korea.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Rue, maybe you can talk about what this is really about?
Yeah. Thank you, Council President. I just wanted, for the record, this is a motion for work that's already been done by my predecessor, and we're just fulfilling on the promise and making payment after we were able to track down where that money was and just making the payment. And the substitute motion is to change a spelling error. It's not Korea Youth Community Center, it's Koreatown Youth and Community Center. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Let's now prepare. Did you want to say something, Mr. Cedillo, or we're good? Let's vote. Let's open the roll. There's 2 votes, Mr. Clerk, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one is on the substitution. So let's vote on that. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
And so the second is on the motion as amended or substituted, correct? All right, so let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
We're now on item 10. On that item, I have Mr. Walsh. So I'll call you. Just come on up. Mr. Walsh, first person to the mic, speaks first. Mr. Previn, Ms. Ramirez, Mr. Spindler passes, Mr. Akala. Okay, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, or Jay Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. This is a very, very important agenda item. This is an execution, that's a scary word, an agreement with the Coalition for Responsible Community Development, whoever the hell they are. And there's nothing here that tells us what they are. Poverty pimps? And anyway, it not to exceed $50,000. This is block grant money, and execute the agreement. And this is concerns something to do with housing. And when it concerns housing, that all bets are off. It's all crooked. And maybe somebody up there can tell the people out there who the hell the Coalition for Responsible Community Development is. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Previn, followed by Ms. Ramirez, Mr. Akala, and Mr. Herman, if they choose. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. It's Eric Previn from CD2. This is item number 10, a Price Wesson motion to provide $50,000 in funding to a group called the Coalition for Responsible Community Development. And they are knowable. They are they have a website. It's around since 2005, and presumably they are doing some good work. This is for marketing, outreach, technical services for the Central Avenue Facade program, where we heard there was some maneuvering to get Dunbar, I believe it was a not-for-profit, but then they decided to go ahead and make a little revision, technical correction, to make it a for-profit. In any event, how about putting some money into the Kingdom Warriors Foundation? You're going to hear from a speaker in a minute who is working with youths to get arts and various programs that can facilitate the community art programs in South Los Angeles, not far from Central. Maybe we could raise some money for that group sometime soon. Sir, I know you're doing a lot, and I appreciate the good-natured response. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Akala.
Moción de Koretz y Wizard. No, esa no es. Moción de Price y Wesson. El señor, el que maneja las marionetas, el señor Wesson, autorizar al manager general para mejorar la economía de sabe quién. Aquí en la de esta, ¿cómo se llama? Comunidad responsable por $50,000. Si yo tuviera $50,000, iría y vendría a México como 10 veces. Chido. Y compraría muchas casas porque aquí todo el mundo está sin vivienda. Allá las casas son más baratas. Allá las hormigas pueden vivir en las casas más a gusto porque están hechas de materiales adecuados para las hormigas. Aquí la vivienda vale madre. Por eso todo el mundo vive en las calles.
Get off of housing.
Esta ciudad es una babosada bien hecha. Traductor. He's not. Hey, ¿qué pasó? No traduces. Toda ciudad es toda una babosada bien hecha. Dígale. Okay, this whole city sucks. I'll translate for you, okay?
No, you're not on the subject, but thank you for that display of your ability to speak Spanish. Okay, Ms. Ramirez, Mr. Herman, whoever's next.
Thank you. On the Coalition for Responsible Community Development that is not to exceed $50,000 in community development block grant funds, why don't we use that money to get ICE and deport all the illegal wetbacks and gangbangers, and then we will enhance the communities. Very simple. Very
Off topic, Antonia. Please go back to the topic.
In Herb Wesson, we need to restore the communities. We need to restore and hold people accountable.
But you need to go on the subject. That's all I'm saying. The item, no, you're not.
That's wasteful spending if you don't take action.
Thank you. You're off the subject. Thank you. Next, okay, now let's prepare to vote on this. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Is there anything left on one? Okay, we're going to move to item 1. And I have Mr. Akala.
And, Mr. President, there's been a request to send item 10 forthwith.
Okay, forthwith. Akala, Walsh.
Test 1.
Is this item 1? See?
Yes, it's item 1.
Item 1 is my cup of tea because I and a lot of us realize that we don't need to have any homelessness. And homelessness in large part is caused by City Hall inventing all these liens against people. Look at this. 4,138, 4,000, 1,000, 3,000. Why does the city need to bleed the people to death? Look at this. 3 pages of liens against the people that elected you, assholes. The people that elected you are getting thrown out on the street, you assholes. What kind of a system is this?
Stay on the subject.
Subject is you put too many liens on people that already own a home. You know what that causes? It causes homelessness. And you are here, sitting here, magnanimous assholes, thinking that you're helping people. You're not. You're only helping yourselves. You will drive your Cadillacs or your whatever.
You're off the subject. Thank you, Mr. Akala. Your time's expired. No, you're disrupting this meeting. Come on, Mr. Walsh.
HollywoodHighlands.org, Jay Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. See the new post. What this is building and safety, one of your better agencies, city agencies, lien for nuisance abatement costs. Now, you gentlemen and lady up here are experts in nuisance abatement at every single meeting here. But here we put a price on a nuisance abatement. There is a lien on the property of $4,133.54 because of the nuisance that this property is causing. 4,600 and more nuisances, 3,721 on North Rincon, and it goes on and on all the way up to R. This is a bunch of nuisances, and actually you're doing a good job.
Thank you. Mr. Spindler, are you on this one? Mr. Herman, are you on this one?
Yes, sir. Fucking hearing these fucking protests, appeal, objections to these fucking liens.
Hold his time. Mr. Spindler, hold his time. Mr. Spindler, I want you to look to your right. You see the little boy over there? You still want to use that language? It just shows your intelligence. So it's up to you. All right,
Ghetto
go ahead.
Motherfucker. I'm a ghetto.
Yeah, no,
CD8,
I have a word
the
for
ghetto.
you, but I won't say it.
And please say it. CD10, we're the slave masters. Over and over again, pages and pages of liens. Too much money, too much interest, stealing kids' homes and futures. Too much of this shit. Look at this. How many pages? We get 1 minute to talk on the whole alphabet soup of liens. KLMNO. Every one of these liens is illegal, unconstitutional, and a ripoff. There is no court order enforcing these liens. People have paid these liens but have died. The heirs do not have the paperwork. Give us the paperwork. Waive all these liens. Cancel all these liens.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Herman. Mr. Koretz, before Mr. Herman.
I don't want to interrupt our public speakers, but I do want to say, just because we get sort of used to all the shenanigans around here, but I know we have some folks in the audience that haven't been here before, so you should know that we are horrified that we have people dressed in KKK outfits and wear swastikas.
You're disrupting the meeting, Mr.
And other
Spindler.
symbols, and do whatever they can to disrupt our meetings. Unfortunately, we threw out a gentleman who was dressed in a KKK outfit a few years ago, and we were sued and lost. And so all of this is protected to some degree under the First Amendment. But we are absolutely horrified. And so
You're disrupting the meeting.
I just want all the folks in the audience to know that this does not reflect in any way our positions on any issues. In fact, quite the opposite.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Koretz, let's let them
Speaker,
do
may I
their
have the floor
thing.
now?
Speak.
Regarding these liens, it's obvious, it's unconstitutional. The due process that you inflict harm to people by enforcement of liens, because the Department of Building and Safety, those fuckers come out to your home and says, oh, you can't put a tent in front of your house, tear it down, here's a citation. But no one knows about it. All of a sudden, you get this certificate on your window saying lien on property. You show up here, and all of a sudden you're in fear. The same fucking fear I get when I hear Koretz saying that I'm misusing my constitutional right, my First Amendment here, to express the problem you've created, homelessness, and making people fear they're going to lose their homes. Be for real, cuz. Be for real, cuz. And I'm speaking from the heart, Mr. Speaker, because you know where I come from.
You're off the subject.
So regarding the liens, here's one. Look, for example, Joe Blow, councilman at East 108th Street for $1,700. And what about Chipmunk from CD7?
You're off the subject. You know, you're off the subject.
Another lien.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Thanks, Sergeant. Show him to his seat. He's continuing to disrupt this meeting. In fact, I think we need to take him to the outer council chambers. So please remove him from the chambers. He's been warned several times. Look at him. He's disrupting the meeting again. It's Mr. Herman. And if he continues to act that way, then I really want him out of these chambers. He does not have the ability to disrupt the city's work. Okay, so let's vote on this item. Let's open the roll. Mr. City Attorney, he's doing it again.
Yes, for the record, he's continuing to disrupt the meeting as he's let out.
Yeah, well, he is disrupting it. He's been disrupting it all day. So anyway, yes, Mr. Englander?
Also go on record that it's a little more disruptive and borderline threatening. And so I'd like to make a note of that as well.
Okay, take Mr. Akala, too. In fact, all of you guys want to go? Mr. Akala, go on. Go on and keep him company. You look at you disrupting the meeting again. You go ahead, disrupting the meeting. I don't want Mr. Herman to be alone. Okay, let's vote on this. Let's open the roll. Close. Let's tabulate.
10 ayes.
He is Mr. City Attorney.
Mr. President,
record.
He's still disrupting the meeting.
Still
as he
disrupting
continues to leave
the
chambers.
meeting. Okay. That brings us where?
Mr. President, that brings council to general public comment for items not on today's agenda.
Okay. Omar Baldwin, Mr. Walsh, Mr. Previn, Ms. Ramirez. Please go ahead, sir.
Hello, my name is Omar Baldwin. I'm founder and CEO of Peace Please Incorporated. Today, I would like to talk about where I was at during 9/11. I believe I was 8 years old, and I was in middle school. I was going to McKinley Elementary School, and I don't think I went to school that day, but I was waiting for cartoons to come on, but the cartoons seemed to never come on TV. And I just found myself looking at all the plane that was stuck in there inside the Twin Tower, and it was just pummeling. And then the most picture I can see in my head is from when the towers collapsed, and then all the smoke, because people were standing around real close to the Twin Towers looking up, when is it going to fall or what's going to happen? And then it just collapsed, and then all the smoke and everybody that was close to the Twin Towers, they started running away. And the smoke was just following them, and it just caught them and just covered them up. Some people were, covered in ashes, just gray. But today, I'm a peacemaker, and my job is to, unite communities. And I don't want to just stop at uniting inside of my community, but I want to try to go, unite outside of my community. Whoever came, and bombed the Twin Towers, it was I believe it was some people say ISIS, Muslims, or whatever. My dad is a Muslim and my mom is a Christian, so I don't really choose sides on that. I usually just stay in the middle and just try to keep the peace. And that's what I would like to try to do in Israel. And Israel and what's going on in the Middle East is just really becoming a nuisance on my life. And I would really like to help as much as I can. So if anybody's hearing my voice or can see my face on TV, you can reach out to me. My phone number is 323-901-5251. 323-901-5251.
Thank you. And Mr. Clerk, if you could make sure we don't have a technical glitch with the clock. Okay, Mr. Walsh.
Anybody but Englander for supervisor. No Olympics in L.A. I say to the world, you're watching this, this city's crazy. It's disruptive. It's out of control. Go to Paris for the Olympics, not this psychotic city. Look at what goes on in this city. Okay, we had a big victory, legal, in the Court of Appeals, 3-0 earlier this week. Old Spaghetti Factory, the city allowed the developer to destroy the facade. We beat Mike Fuhr. We won. Everybody who's rented in that building has had their asses kicked out of the building. And as far as 9/11, I can't believe Mr. Koretz gets up and says he was so chicken when he heard, so gutless when he heard about the bomb. He said, well, there may be thousands of bombs. And he stayed home in bed in Sacramento for fear that they put a bomb in his office. What a punk.
Now, next, who do I have? Mr. Previn? And in your defense, Mr. Koretz, I did not hear what you said that way. People have strange ways of interpreting things here. Mr. Koretz, hold on, Mr.
Well,
Previn.
I would like
Hold
to
on, Mr.
respond that we were all told not to enter the Capitol building for that exact reason, and that is why none of us did on that day.
I don't even know if we could physically enter it. I don't remember. I think it was locked down. Okay, Mr. Previn.
Yes, it's Eric Previn, a resident from CD2, on a tumultuous day. It started very moving. I appreciate all those remembrances about 9/11. And then we've entered this strange space. Sir, is there any way that the city attorney could make a presentation to the public and an agendized item about what is permissible in the hall in terms of rules and such? And then you could clarify your position on Rule 93 about why the public appears at different sides. Because I think that the best way to do battle against the influences that are disruptive is to provide a clean, well-lit place for regular comment, not the kind of move the ball, hide the ball, which we've been engaged in, one way or the other. And regarding the glitch, the technical glitch, I would ask Channel 35, #Blumenfield, to look into the glitch, because if we're having a glitch on the timing, we should resolve it equitably, sir, just like we do everything down at City Hall. And I want to just say on 9/11 that the most powerful thing for me is how the public, the folks on Flight 93, like Mr. Bonin alluded to, stood up to defend.
Thank you, Mr. Previn. Okay, Ms. Ramirez, Mr. Marine, Henry, if you're here.
Thank you.
Mr. Barajas.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a monstrous wetback and Latino Chango gang epidemic in Los Angeles. I don't reward these venomously jealous, wicked, uncivilized, filthy, and nosy racist hate-mongering wetbacks and Chango Latino gangbanging thieves and domestic terrorists who are the enemy combatants of Los Angeles and America. Latinos are nosy, filthy, brawlers, pigs, asco. They are poor because they are thieves, malandros y culeros. Deport and bazooka their undesirable asses, and let's restore America. God bless Donald Trump. In the aftermath of 9/11, let us bring peace and freedom, life, liberty, justice, with a pursuit of happiness and the right to enjoy our personal property without the fear and intimidation, torment, torture, and emotional distress that we go through on a daily basis. Secondly, there is invasion of privacy in the Music Center Grand Park female bathrooms committed by these wetbacks and gangbangers, black pimps, white trash. Numerous women have complained to the LAPD and Sheriff's Department regarding secret spyware in the female bathrooms at the music.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. Thank you. So, Mr. Marine, I believe you're next, followed by Mr. Spindler and by Sandra Bland.
Yes, as you know, Rick Tuttle, Lord Schick, Winnie Grew, and Ron Galpin have been withholding the money from the pay of Hackman Kohler craftsmen for the past 25 years. And we know that these MOU-defined deductions have been ending up in all the wrong places for longer than the law allows. We know you didn't make contributions to public employee pension benefit plans for these employees. Consequently, you owe a lot of back payments to Lasers and CalPERS and any other pension plans that you failed to provide benefits to, payments to in the first place.
That's critical, I think.
And Rick Tuttle convinced me to vote for Mr. Marquise. I talked to him 20 minutes, and he know where this damn money went to. I don't know why he don't know where the damn money went to and how to recover it. American Recovery and Reinvestment Act says recover the money.
Okay, who do I have next? Mr. Spindler. Where's Brian? Brian, you should be up here. And a Miss Bland. Yes, go right ahead.
On the anniversary of 9/11, on the first floor on Main Street, we got no metal detector working. The police downstairs cannot do their job, and safety cannot be done in this building because you won't get them a metal detector that's been broken for 6 months. Even the cops are saying, Herb Wesson doesn't give us a goddamn metal detector, so we have to search the bags by hand, and we're missing stuff. And you're putting all of us in danger. The real hoods could come down here, and we don't have a metal detector because you don't want to spend the money to even secure the basic rights of the people in this building. That's because you don't give a shit about the people. That's why I have to wear the hood. I am the First Amendment. And that's the only way the kids are going to have a First Amendment is people that goddamn express the First Amendment. You want to take it away, you want to tell me I'm not on the topic, and you throw out people for no reason other than their speech and their color. Fuck you.
Thank you very much. And ditto, okay? Mr. Barajas?
If anybody wants to know how far we came from actually stopping terrorism, let me give you an indication of where we are at right now. The President of the United States, so-called Barack Hussein Obama, has committed above and beyond any crime that any president has ever committed. His specific policy, and I can absolutely give details on it and background on that, is to literally fund and channel the way that terror network like ISIS is used. In other words, Obama specifies his policies to use ISIS to overthrow the Assad regime. That's very specific. Now, LaRouchePAC.com, and you can find all that out.
In June 2015, the City of Los Angeles issued a certificate of appreciation stating the Good Shepherd Center has outstanding and further help in a better place to have people live, work, and play. Yet the numerous bedbug allegations, the numerous help that people have given to you, Mitch Farrell, Mr. Vega, who has not responded to people who need housing in this area. Homelessness is not a game. Homelessness is now a money maker. And the fact that the City of Los Angeles issued a certificate of appreciation for deplorable condition, expired food, and also people who are not getting housing help. They get money for every head that's in there. So 30 women that are suffering as of we speak are currently seeking help. And they have emailed Mitch Farrell, Hector Vega, who has not even responded. This is the third week. Now you have women who are being exited out and put back on the streets.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That concludes general public comment. Where are we now, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, Council has motions for posting and referral.
They are posted. They are referred.
The desk is clear.
Announcements. Okay, there are no announcements. Why don't we rise for adjourning motions? So if all in the council could please rise. And I'd like to defer or to call on Council Member Marquise Harris Dawson at this time.
Members, we are joined today by the families of a few of the folks who have lost their lives to homicide during the month of August here in our city of Los Angeles. I asked them to come and be with us today so they could hear us call out the names of their loved ones so that they would know, at least in this city, all lives matter, and we are going to do our best to bring the people who took those lives to justice, and we will remember those lives. I will read the names of everyone, but behind me are the families of Delshawn Hayes and Marcus McClendon, Kumasi Jefferson, Edmund Woods, Webster Brown, Tony Jones, Jared Hall, Davion Washington, Dewan Bell, Trayvon Lark.
Hold your point. Mr. Spindler, sit down, or you have no reason to be in the center aisle. You should show respect. Go on, Mr. Harris. Do not go in the center aisle again.
Jivion Bills, Aurelius Haywood, Corey Green, and Kenneth Gardner. Almost all African American men, almost all killed by gun violence by other African American men. We want to adjourn today in their memory, but we also want to adjourn in the spirit and commit to their families and to our entire community that all of us will do all that we can. We're joined by Commander Tingarides from LAPD. We will do all that we can to stop the scourge of gun violence in our community and the loss of so many of our loved ones. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harris Dawson. I'm going to look to my right side, Mr. Koretz. I'd like to call on you at this time.
President, the Hamilton High School community suffered a tremendous loss on August 29th with the passing of Alan Kaplan, an amazing and beloved and celebrated leader at Hamilton High. He joined Hamilton Humanities Magnet in 1983, 2 years after the inception of that school, and he stayed a crucial presence at that magnet until now. I'm sorry to say that I graduated before he got there, but I'm proud that he was a great contributor to the experience and academic traditions of my high school. He taught honors U.S. history and introduction to psychology, but if you talk to anyone at the school, he did much, much more than that. He taught all the citizens there, or students there, about citizenship, self-responsibility, and awareness of their position in the world, and to be a productive and genuine part of the world. And he stirred them politically. His new ninth graders in his class found that it was almost like a political encounter group. He was known and treasured for being willing to confront students, to harp on them about their lives and force them to think about their positions in the world. Alumni, when they return to Hamilton, talk about his tremendous positive influence over their lives. And the day after learning that he had passed, the Magnet School's entire student body of 380 kids gathered and sat together in a little hallway at the school and talked and listened about him and shared hugs and shed tears and cheered his memory and his legacy. And his 30-plus years at the school, he never got burnt out, never got tired of inspiring young people, never really lost that spark, an urge to build a fire under students and get them in gear as active and knowledgeable and determined participants in the world. At Hamilton, they started a Facebook memorial page that's already filled with overwhelming comments of respect and love. He left countless people who will miss him, particularly his wife, the wonderful journalist Erin Aubrey Kaplan. A memorial event is planned for September 20th at 1 p.m. He'll be missed and not forgotten, though, at the Hamilton Magnet and at the school for many years to come, I'm sure.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Mr. Englander.
Thank you. Before I share with you my adjourning motion, I just wanted to thank you, Mr. President, again for the tribute this morning, and also to Councilmember Harris Dawson. More importantly, to the brave families that are here today. The worst thing is to lose anybody you love. To lose them through tragedy from a violent crime is unspeakable. I've been where you're standing and share your pain. And so that you're here today, I commend you for that. It's one day at a time. And I really appreciate that you're here. And it means a lot to all of us. Thank you for that. Colleagues, it's great sadness that I adjourn in memory of Spencer Andrews. Spence was born and raised in Tucson, Arizona on December 3rd in 1926 and passed away on August 4th at the age of 88. Spence graduated from the University of Arizona with a major in business, and he also served our country in the Navy at the end of World War II. Spence moved from Arizona to Los Angeles in 1955 and met and then married his wife Helen in April of 1958. Spence and Helen opened their first insurance agency in 1966. Spence and Helen merged their insurance agency with Bill Van Lawn to form Andrews and Van Lawn Insurance in 1973. Originally located in Panorama City, they moved the agency to Granada Hills in 1985. Spence was a past president of the Independent Insurance Agents Association of the San Fernando Valley, and his daughter Laura followed in her dad's footsteps, has since purchased the agency from them. Spence was very athletic and took up golf while in high school. In fact, had a 2 handicap. He loved the game and has the honor of boasting a hole-in-one while playing at Porter Valley. He was a generous soul and was a member of the Rotary for over 40 years. He really enjoyed working with the various charities and organizations his club supported, and he was very proud of being a Rotarian and the greatness of the organization and what it brings to the world. He also worked with PALS, Police Activities League, for many years, helping our local police department work with underprivileged kids. Spence was a tough guy. He battled his lymphoma for 14 years and did so with little complaint or desire for attention. He lived a long, happy, and full life. He had a great sense of humor, and our deepest sympathies go to his family. He leaves behind his wife, Helen, his daughter, Laura, and her husband, Jim, their 2 daughters, Chelsea and Paige. His daughter, Laura, has followed in her father's footsteps locally and civically and is an active member as well in Granada Hills. I know the Andrews family quite well and have had the privilege of working directly side by side with Spence. He was just a tremendous character, always smiling and laughing, always gave back, put everybody first before himself. And it was an honor to know him in the years that I did and work alongside him in his dream to make it a better life for everybody else around him. And may Spence Andrews forever live in peace.
Anyone else on the left side? I don't see anyone on the left side. Again, our condolences to all of the women, the wives, the mothers, the sisters that are here today. Thank you, Mr. Harris Dawson. Also, well, I'll go to Mr. Price.
Families and friends that are with us today, we mourn your loss, and along with Councilman Harris Dawson, we're going to do all we can to make sure that not only the streets are safe, but those who are responsible are apprehended. And so our prayers go out. We also mourn the lives of members of Luis, Juan, and Alexander Fuentes, who were killed on Wednesday at the senseless act of a deranged adult. These 3 young brothers lived in District 9. They were boys with so much life ahead of them. They were deeply loved by their community, and we mourned their loss. Wednesday night, the community gathered and reminisced, seeing them laughing, running, and playing on their scooters. The tragedy not only affected the Fuentes family, but it's also greatly impacted our community at large. The 3 brothers leave behind a legacy of strength, joy, and laughter. They brought joy and laughter to the many lives they touched. They showed strength as they continued to smile regardless of all the obstacles and hardships that life presented to them at such an early age. They taught us to be joyful regardless of our circumstances. Luis, Juan, and Alexander Fuentes will be deeply missed. The community will miss their smiles. The community will miss seeing them eat their favorite snacks, Cheetos and Doritos. The community will miss their jubilance. May Luis, Juan, and Alexander rest in peace in the power of our Lord and Savior, along with the other victims who we remember today. Thank you.
Any more adjourning motions? Members, remember, be a patriot. This council meeting is adjourned.